I am happy today that we are going to learn about Outway socks from Rob Fraser, who founded the company. The creator of Outway socks joins us, and he transitioned from being a professional athlete to entrepreneurship. Rob, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from?
Kurt, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm here in beautiful British Columbia on Vancouver Island. Live in Victoria, BC for the past 10 years, but originally from the Toronto area. So good old Canadian boy. But yeah, happy to be here. Happy to chat all things stocks, business, sport, whatever you want to get into.
How would you describe Outway?
I wanted to create a product that could be something like the yoga pant for the foot. Yoga pant being incredibly versatile, where you can dress it up, down, it's casual, comfortable, technical, you can work out, right down, just lay on the couch. I wanted that to be in sock form, a sock that you can put on in the morning and know that you can go to work, you can go to school, you can go out for dinner, and you can go run a marathon in them. So, your use case of you want to use them for cycling is perfect. So you can express your personality, whether that's toned up or really out there, toned down or really out there. And so, yeah, you kind of nailed it because there is no one thing or one, description for the product other than it's an all day performance pair of socks, performance in whatever you want to do with them.
What really got me is the durability. Because you're riding a bike with socks on, and especially like I'm doing a mountain bike, you abuse those things, and I have yet to wear a hole through them. I'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a big part of it, right? Like, it was one thing you want your socks to do is last. It's a complicated product because unlike all other apparel, it's actually like making direct contact with the ground, and friction is between your foot and the shoe. And there's like this constant almost friction back and forth. So it wears. You can think about like a shirt or a hoodie. It's not interacting with the outside world unless you're kind of rubbing up against a wall or something, which is pretty, infrequent. So creating socks, which also need to be incredibly thin to then stand up to the daily wear of friction inside the shoe, particularly on running, and most particularly on like trail running, where there's a ton of friction, a ton of kind of up and downhill movement. How do you make a sock last? It's not an easy problem to solve, but it comes down to ultimately just figuring out the right way to weave the yarns, everything from the type of yarns you use, where you're putting in extra support, but not to get too nerdy on socks because no one's going to care as much as I do. But yeah, they are durable. They are meant to last, but they're not meant to last forever. They are a performance product. And just like buying, as you would know, high performance pair of tires for your bike, they wear out. They're supposed to do their job until they don't anymore. Then you replace them. We like to say we have a 1-year guarantee on them. If you get a year out of consistent use of the product, you're winning. You don't get that much time out of a pair of running shoes if you're training often. And those shoes cost $300 per pair.
How did this get started? What were you doing, and why did you start selling socks?
Yeah, as you kind of mentioned at the beginning, I used to race mountain bikes professionally. So for about 10 years, I was a professional competitive athlete, 5 times on the Canadian national team. And during that time, that was my life goal. I woke up excited every morning to go chase that. There was a one-track mind. I didn't think about anything else. But then, as approaching the end of my career, realizing I wasn't going to make the ultimate goal and enough to kind of save myself for the long term. I couldn't retire off what I'm making. I wasn't going to reach the peak where there was much more longevity. So in my early 20s, I walked away from the sport, but then had somewhat of an identity crisis. Like, who am I and what am I supposed to do now? Because, I was pretty hyper-focused on one thing for 10 years, and then seemingly overnight it goes away. You're no longer Rob Fraser, the cyclist. You're Rob Fraser. I don't know who I am. What am I going to do? And so really the business was born out of, a search for a new identity or purpose in the world, and then a desire to just have another big goal to go after. And I think the third reason I started it was I wanted to remain involved in sport. That wasn't as an athlete or competitive athlete. Could it be on the brand side? Could I own a business that has an athletic brand attached to it that deals with athletes? I could still do all the things I love to do, just on the other side of the table. And, why stop? I didn't have any technical skills. I wasn't going to start a software company. So I thought an apparel company was something that seemed tangible as a guy with no business experience. And then socks seemed like one of the less risky pieces of clothing. Beyond that, in cycling, socks are a part of the culture. You mentioned this. It's the thing you actually think about as a cyclist. And so for 10 years, I was already deeply immersed in sock culture. I had a ton of socks. I actually had a sock sponsor. So I understood the business from being on the other side of the table as an athlete, When I was going through, outside of my cycling life, I was actually considered like the sock guy because I always had like funky socks on, shorts and crew socks with like, you know, shoes on. And I always I've got a permanent crew sock tan line. I haven't not worn crew socks for like 20 years. So I was already the sock guy. I was like, okay, maybe like socks are this unique opportunity. I'm not going to sit here and, it's almost 10 years since we started. We're in our 8th year, but like when I started, there was no like master plan. I didn't do market analysis. I just thought socks were cool. I'm going to try and start a business. Took $1,000. I went back to school. That was $1,000 from my school loans I took out, and invested that in getting some product. And that's how it was started. And, in hindsight, it was a good opportunity because socks are a $50 billion market. So a huge TAM. There's a lot of opportunity in the niches of socks, especially where we operate, in an athletic sock geared towards cycling, running, and all-day performance. And then there was no Canadian sock brands. There still basically is none other than us. We're certainly, in terms of niche offerings, the largest Canadian sock brand, in terms of volume. Obviously, we don't sell more socks than like Nike. We sell more socks in Canada than us. But in terms of niche sock brands, the majority of the competitors are in the US, and we're among the top players now in North America. So there's a unique opportunity just to go capture our home turf. And then at the time we started in the mid-teens, in 2016, e-commerce was on the upswing. It wasn't new, but it was certainly getting traction. And there was a way to enter the market by, the classic D2C value prop of cutting out the middleman. So we were able to go direct to consumer with the socks and offer a higher quality product at a lower price than everything else that was on. The last thing I want to do is be like, look, I took an analysis of the market and came up with this genius idea to do socks in this niche and invested in. Here I am with a brand that's crushing it. It's like, no, I thought socks were cool. I took a little bit of money and gave it a shot, and I've incrementally improved over 8 years, and that's where we are.
Well, what's the moment where you start Outway? What's the moment you realize that, hey, this could work, this could be successful, or did you never doubt it?
I always hold two things true, even when I was in sport and to this day, is that when I start something and set my mind to it, I believe on one hand, there's no doubt I'm going to be successful at it and I'm going to achieve my wildest dreams. And on the other hand, I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I have this like unwavering belief and I'm just going to figure it out as I go. So like when I started, although I didn't expect it to work, and it was just something I thought would be fun and a cool opportunity. At the same time, I was like, I'm fully committed. I want this to work and I'm going to go all in. And so I always harness those two beliefs at the same time. And, pretty early on, I took that $1,000. I taught myself how to design the socks. I sourced a manufacturer. And within only 2 months, I had 230 pairs of my own socks designed and in hand. So moved very quickly. I then took those socks to school in a Tupperware and sold them one by one. And I sold them out in like 2 or 3 days. So like pretty immediately, I was like, okay, maybe I've got something here. And people were like, we like this. Do you have more? I'm like, not sold out. And so I took the money I made. I went right back to the manufacturer. I was like, hey, I need 700 more. I just doubled down. And then I kept doing that. I sold more at school. And then I looked at local events, at the time it was the fall. So cyclocross races. I set up a little booth at cyclocross races, sold them to people. And slowly but surely, it started to catch on. Just like you said, you heard about it from a friend. That's primarily how we've grown significantly. We got to over 1 million in sales by not doing any traditional digital advertising. We just word of mouth, brand ambassadors, event pop-ups, really kind of old school. Even when it was like the gold mine of Facebook ads and e-commerce, we didn't take that approach, which is why I think we're still thriving and around today compared to burning out. We built a really strong foundation of actual branded, real marketing, tangible product that people love and refer. It wasn't an arbitrage. So yeah, pretty early on, we did like 350 grand the first year on that $1,000 initial investment. So that's a lot of socks, right? You sell them for 15 to 20 bucks a pair. It's a lot of socks. So like after that year, I was like, oh, I think I've got something here, At that time, we auditioned for Dragon's Den, which is like Canada's Shark Tank. And we got on, pitched it, got a couple offers that I turned down. And that's where I was really like, okay, like I got to the national stage in cycling. This is like the national stage in business. Like I'm kind of like, this is my new thing. This is, I'm an athlete in the sport of business now. I'm going to just go all in. And so it was really at that point where, I started the business with a co-founder, a friend from school. We got to this moderate level of success with over 1 million in sales. We've aired on, this business TV show across the country. he decides that he doesn't want to do it anymore and quits. And I have to come up with 150 grand to buy him out because we didn't have a shareholder agreement. I'm going to kind of gloss over this story as I've told it on a lot of other podcasts, but like, it wasn't an ideal situation. We were simply value misaligned. And when we started it, I had this belief, we'll do it for fun. We don't expect it to work. But I had the belief, if it works, I'm going to go all in. His belief was, this is just for fun. So we were misaligned in that way. And so when the work started to get real and the stress started to get real, he wanted to opt out. And so the moment I'd say like where I know it's working, but I have to kind of put my money where my mouth is taking a $150,000 loan to buy out my business partner and then go, okay, now I've actually got to make this work because, this isn't a small amount of money to lose. And it's kind of bankrupt territory personally if I don't pull it off, because I had a negative net worth, student loans, and now this personal loan. So, it's like in the whole 200 grand with a business that was working. But as you know, growing any consumer business, $1 million in revenue sounds cool, but that's not $1 million in profit. We're reinvesting everything. So, that was the kind of like the arc of it working and me deciding I'm going to go all in just with my time and attention, but with my own bank account. And, I would do it again. It's worked out nicely, but there was no guarantee back then. It was working, but there was no guarantee we'd be where we are today.
It sounds like this is a bootstrapped business.
Bootstrapped it for 5 years. So we bootstrapped it to 10 million in total sales. So 10 million in total sales
Not
off
bad.
that $1,000. Not bad. So basically total sales, and I think about over 6 million in annual sales, bootstrapped it. So pretty good off off $1,000. So cash flowed and profitable, which is extremely hard to do in a consumer business that's scaling. And then in 2021, there was a opportunity to take investment from a group of people I had curated that were mentors at the time. These are kind of prominent figures in the business community that I had built relationships with over the past year. And it was just a great time to kind of capitalize the business. I owned 100% of it. And to get some, like, kind of just some people to help and kind of lean on and just kind of continue to scale from there. So, we didn't need to raise money at the time, but all the stars aligned, and, I would go back and do it again as well. But we're certainly not like a venture business. I'd say that was an opportunity to just capitalize the business. At the time, I sold a bit of secondary as well. So there was like a personal win there. And so capitalize the business, personal win, and get some just incredible knowledge into the business that's helped me scale over the last 3 years as well, to scale my own kind of ability to run this as a founder and CEO. So I would say like at our core, we're a bootstrap business that has taken on some money from partners, but we're not like on the raising train most businesses.
I suspect your experience as an athlete has informed your mindset as an entrepreneur. Talk to me about my...
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like success of an entrepreneur comes down to almost two things. One is that mindset, your ability to persevere and your level of resilience. And then two is your ability to kind of apply that over a long time horizon and be patient, right? So like success in business is just time in the game and just don't die. It's kind of just like, I would say the young entrepreneurs just like stay in business long enough to figure out what you're doing. And then once you finally figure it out, start to scale it. Like that is really the game. It took us 5 years to figure it out. We were doing 5-6 million revenue. We're still figuring it out. It wasn't really until the last couple of years where we're like, oh, like this is exactly what's going on in terms of like true scale, right? And like building infrastructure and kind of like really investing in channels. So it takes a long time. These, most overnight successes are 10 years in the making, that kind of like trite quote, but it is so true. But what sport taught me was things like, I think the most important lesson that everything is earned, not owed, right? Sport is still one of the truest forms of teaching you that what you put in is what you get out. You don't always get out equal proportion to what you put in. You don't always win. You don't always get lucky. Things happen around cycling and racing. You get a flat tire. You could do everything right and you get a flat tire. Like it's just bad luck. In most cases, sometimes you take a bad line, but it's just bad luck. So like it teaches you that everything's earned, not owed, and it's also not guaranteed to do all the work. And so I've harnessed that mindset of just like always approaching every day of like, I'm not owed anything here. I've got to do the work. And even if I do the work, I'm not guaranteed the results, but I'm going to keep pushing on, because what sport also taught me is that if you just hang on long enough and you have the big goals and you're working towards them, usually the universe will kind of reward you with some sort of forward momentum. Maybe it's not in the way that you thought, like I think ultimately the perseverance and the mindset I had in sport, it didn't end up getting me to the end result I wanted in sport. I just wasn't world champion. I didn't get to, retire the Michael Jordan of cycling, but it provided me the opportunity and platform to do what I'm doing now. Right. And so like, if you take a 20-year time horizon, it's like, oh, okay, everything I was doing and the hard work I was putting in back then is actually coming to fruition now, which is like 18 years later. Right. Which is kind of crazy. So that, more tactically as an athlete, you're marketing yourself, you are the brand. So I understood and learned lessons around self-promotion, how to negotiate with sponsors, develop contracts, how to understand that like relationships like this, whether you're selling myself to a brand or a product to a customer, is like there's a value exchange. You're willing to give me money, I'm going to give you something. So it taught me a lot of lessons there. It also taught me a lot of lessons just around planning and preparation, worldwide logistics. So I have to get myself and my bike around the world. That creates some understanding of how I get socks around the world. So really simple things like that. But there's just tactical lessons in everything you do. And this isn't just relatable to sport. I would encourage anyone that's maybe thinking about starting a business, think of all the things they've done in their life where these lessons are true and just pull on them.
It's fabulous advice. And I love that the inherent humility, the humbleness, the modesty of that mindset, of you're not owed anything, and what you do get from the universe really is a gift and the product of what you put in. But man, I want to talk about socks some more, or as we're calling them, yoga leggings for your feet. But all right, so socks are an interesting category because I could spend $20, $15, $20 on one pair of socks that are fancy. I could spend $15, $20 and get a big bag of tube socks and have a fresh pair of socks, daily, and throw them out at the end of the day if I'm a real monster, right? Like it can be a commodity, or it could be just a really neat and relatively inexpensive accessory, right? Like $20 on a single article of clothing is not crazy. But then when it's socks, maybe it is, right? So if socks are seen as this kind of functional product, how do you go about transforming them into this high value thing that your customers love, you have a loyal fan base for?
Yeah, this is where we've like unlocked a lot of insights over the last couple of years. So like, I think the exciting thing about the sock category in general is, like I mentioned, it's a $50 billion category worldwide. It's about 10 billion in North America. So it's a very, very large market, which means there's a lot of opportunity to niche down and find a specific audience that you can sell to. For us, that's athletes that want to merge performance with expression as well as all-day versatility. So really what, we are aiming to do with the product is, first and foremost, we have to understand what's going to get them to make the first purchase. We're selling directly, mostly online. They can't pick up the sock and they can't feel it. They can't try it on. You can't actually try socks on in store anyways. That's the unique thing about socks compared to other apparel. You can't try them on. So if you're selling online, we recognize that okay, we can't necessarily just sell people on the comfort of them because they can't try it. So what are they going to buy them for? So that's why we have so many designs. We realize that if we can have someone evoke an emotional response to a certain specific design that we have, they're willing to take that bet and spend $22 on a pair of socks. They're just like, I love this design. I don't care that this pair of socks is $22. This will be my special pair of socks. I just really want that design because it makes me happy and I want to put it on in the morning. So that's really why, a big portion of our customers make their initial purchase if they just want the design. They have actually no idea the socks are great. They just love.
That's what I did.
And we have, yeah, exactly. And so the cool thing here though is the socks are incredible, right? And so you buy it for the design. These people get the socks and they put them on. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even know socks could feel this good. It's actually kind of almost a life-changing moment for a lot of our customers. And we have thousands of reviews that tell this exact story. And we can see it in the data. They buy it for the design. They put it on, they come back and they buy an entire drawer full of black and white socks. We're trying to look in the data for a while and be like, why do we sell so many of our basic socks, but everything we hear about customers is the design? Then we looked at it and there was this 30-day window where people come back and make a second purchase and fill their drawer with just basics. And we're like, oh, that's because they're filling, they don't wear their funky designs every day for everything, but they've just said, oh my God, I need to replace my entire sock drawer because this is my new sock brand. And that's actually our mission statement, our vision of the company is to replace the sock drawer of everyone on earth, right? It's we want to be the only pair of socks that people need. I believe that 90+% of the market is still unaware that they should even be thinking about their socks, which is so cool. we're kind of in a market right now where everyone thinks about the clothes they wear, and it's hyper competitive. They're like, there's a million and one t-shirt brands, hoodie brands, shoe brands, because people think about this. They try different brands. They're constantly testing. Very few people have a favorite sock brand. Very, very few. I mean, like we might operate in different circles where you're a cyclist and that's more common. But you go to a room of like 100 people and say, what's your favorite brand? They're gonna be like, I have no idea. Like, that's a weird question, and you're weird for asking me. Right. So the cool thing is that I don't even believe we really have competitors. Our number one, like our most competitive thing right now is how do we actually just make more of them, and what's the most unique way we can get people to figure out that they should be thinking and caring about socks. We have so much opportunity to go find new customers that are not taking customers from another sock brand. So I believe I can be friends with all the others because it's a $50 billion market. None of us collectively are capturing all of that. Still going to go to like the big champions and Nikes and Adidas. But in this niche offering, like the more of us that are out there letting people know that you should be thinking about socks, there's different use cases for socks. They're actually a life-changing product when you get the right fit and feel for what you're using them for. We're just growing the market together. And there's so much, there's a big pot and everyone can take a piece. So of course, doesn't mean I want to be anti-competitive. I'd love to take that hold, right? But at the same time, my mindset and how I operate as an entrepreneur is not to go out there and battle others. I'm not in competition with other people. This is a forever game, an infinite game. And I just think socks are so cool because we have the job of changing people's lives with them because they just have no idea how good they could be. And so really long-winded answer again of like how we approach this is by design and an emotional response that is disjointed from people thinking about necessarily like, this is why do socks cost $22 versus they're just willing to make the purchase because they want that certain design, into now it's so obvious to them why this pair of socks costs what they do compared to others. The purchase is like basically a non-issue for them. And that's what we've unlocked. And like what I have just articulated there is what I was saying about, my last ramble where I was like, we've only really figured things out, but this took a lot of time to figure out, right? Like, if you're throwing so much at the wall of how you're growing and how your customers are talking about the product and what markets are adapting to it, it's like, then you look at the data of the repeat history, and like you need to accumulate all of these inputs and then have enough time to synthesize them and be like, okay, what is this journey? And maybe I'm just a little dumb. It took me 8 years to figure it out, but like, I don't think that's the case. I think it really does illustrate the point that business takes time to fully understand what's going on. And if we have a chat in 2 years, I'm sure I'll have even more insights, or maybe even some of this is wrong, what I'm saying. So, it's been really wonderful to figure out, you come to these.
That's the nature of doing the work.
Yeah.
When you're doing the work, you are succeeding when you look back at yourself 6 months prior and see the growth. Like if you go, a year ago is pretty much the same as now, you probably need to be trying harder, right? I'm looking at your site, your Shopify store, Outway.com, which fabulous that you have a 6-letter domain name, Outway.com. And there's about 300 product listings. It is exclusively socks, a lot of bundles, and I see like stuff merchandised all different ways. It worked on me when I bought them. I was like, oh, I'll get a bundle. There's a 15% savings to do the bundle discount. Is that with going deep on a single category, because you don't sell anything else, it's socks and sock packs. I would imagine that merchandising is a big part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we sell just socks, and within that, we just sell athletic socks. So we're narrowing it down even more. But within that, we have a few offerings. First, there's the height you want to buy. So within the athletic sock, we offer everything from a no-show to a knee-high sock. So there's people have preferred heights. Some people have various heights they wear within a certain season. People have a preferred height. Then within that, we have the designs. So we've got everything from more basic designs up to very out there designs. And then we've got materials. So we have our athletic blends, which is more synthetic blend, which is all active wear. And then we have merino. So there's that way of merchandising or thinking about the product is like, what's your style that you like? And people will just have preferences there. And we're working on a more kind of cottony version. It won't be cotton because like as a brand, and then an athletic brand, we steer clear of cotton. It's just inherently a lower performance yarn, and it's just not ideal for sport. So we're working on something that will feel like that, but will be non-cotton. So there'll be a third kind of yarn option coming soon as well. But yeah, and then in terms of merchandising those beyond that, there's just you buy them individually or you buy them in packs. Packs is just a way that people don't necessarily, a way to avoid decision fatigue, so they can get, 3 at once. And it's a higher AOV or average order value for us as well, because socks are a very low price point, and to do well online and in e-commerce, like it's easier with a higher AOV. We're actually actively working on build your own pack as well, which will have 3 and 6 pack options, and that should go live later this year or in the early new year, so 2025. And then beyond that, we have a mystery pair upsell as well. So like when you go to checkout, there's a pop-up that will come up and say, would you like to add a mystery pair, which is basically a surprise design that will send you at a discounted rate. And it's just surprise and delight. And it's made up of great selling designs that we'll just kind of put in there.
Have you done mystery pack or free gift with purchase before?
We've done mystery packs in the past. We've done free gift with purchase. We've tested all of these things. What we find works really well in an evergreen state is just this mystery pair upsell. We've sold mystery packs. Like the mystery product you can go buy on its own as well. You could buy 5 of them or whatever. We only guarantee the designs will be different up to 5 pairs though, just because there's not a huge variety at all times in there. But there is more than 5, but like we just try to, limit the warehouse brain damage of trying to like find, 5 different ones in this big bin. More than 5, sorry. But we've tried all of that stuff too. And, it's like really the merchandising strategy is like, how do we just get people to buy more at once? Because it's not economical for us to ship 1 pair at a time, which is why we have a free shipping threshold to encourage people to get up over 3 pairs generally. But ideally, we want to sell 6 at a time to make it truly worthwhile, especially being in Canada, shipping costs are so high on our end. So that the only way to kind of make the typically low price, low margin item economical is to sell more of them at once. And so, merchandising is a constant evolution for us and understanding how customers are walking through the site and buying. But we're getting more and more honed in on it as we grow.
In this, a lot of the stuff requires special features, and that means apps. Are there any Shopify apps you particularly love?
We have used apps in the past. When we think of things like upsells, we built that natively just because, like at certain scales, these apps will take a percentage fee of sales. And if you can build it natively, it's just more advantageous to do so. But there are tons. I would say like if you're, sub 10 million revenue or even 5 million and you're trying to test these things out, the apps are such a great way to do it because building stuff natively is a bit of a technical lift and not everyone has access to those tools, or you don't even know if it's going to work. So you might not want to make the investment. So upsell, cross-sell apps are super beneficial. I don't have any that come to, we've used a bunch in the past. For bundles, we just use the Shopify Bundles app. It's fantastic. They make it super easy. It's built in, it's native to Shopify. It's a native app. So it's seamless in terms of how that works. So like what it allows us to do really is take just all of our single SKUs and bundle them. We don't have to pre-make bundles. So we can actually take, 100 SKU product catalog and make it 200 SKUs just by making bundles that don't actually increase our stock on hand ability. We don't put up more cash to bring in more bundled products. The only downside of that app right now, and maybe this has changed in the last few days, is that they don't have great analytics on how the bundles sell because it splits out every product sale individually after on the back end. And so I can't actually go pull bundle sales. So like we're kind of flying a little blind. We can make some judgments on like if we see individual SKUs doing well and knowing they're in a bundle together, we infer that it's probably selling quite well. But it seems like a pretty easy Shopify thing to add in. So Shopify, if anyone there is listening, I need analytics. I need data on pack sales, please, on bundle sales. But that app's great. But we actually steered clear of quite a lot of apps just because we've been burned in the past of apps counteracting with some of the features, or they bug out and kind of cause issues in the code or in the website, or they take percentage fees of sales, which like at a high volume store, we just want to avoid that at all costs because like it's just skims off the top. But I mean, I'd say like if you're testing things, we use apps all the time. So for this pack builder that we're going to be launching in the new year, I don't know the exact name of the app, but we are using an app. And if it goes well, we will build it natively eventually. But there's a really great app that we found that's going to allow us to test it, get it out the gate. And then we'll see how it goes. So I'd say like we use apps for testing primarily, but in general, try to keep them pretty app light. And they can affect speed loading or page loading. So there's just a bunch of considerations, but yeah, we're generally pretty app light.
I like that approach. The site will run faster. You've got reduced overhead. Anything that you could do natively or yourself and own it, it's generally better. But you're right, like you don't want to go building every feature yourself every time. There's certainly times where the app makes more sense. So, well, on that topic, the whole site in Shopify, but it sounds like, you want to own the experience. Do you worry about over-reliance on like various tools in your tech stack?
Not really. Not really, especially in the tech stack. I mean, business-wide as well, we are diversified. So we sell on Amazon as well. We sell in wholesale as well. So we're sold in multiple channels. And so outside of just our D2C, we are pretty diversified out of just self-reliance on that. Although D2C is like the significant portion of our business. In terms of tools, I mean, Shopify allows you to own everything you'd really want to own. We have those email lists. We use the very basic partners, like we use Klaviyo for email. We could port all of that information over to a new ESP if we want to. So we own that information. We own those emails. So if we're not reliant on Klaviyo. If we wanted to move to another ESP, which is always possible, then we can bring those customers with us. They don't own that list. So there has been predatory apps in the past where they will kind of like, I think there was a pretty famous like SMS one where they'll kind of like try and keep your contacts or make it hard. Maybe it's not SMS, but I've heard stories where there are certain apps where they'll gate access to some of the data that you're getting. And so in that case, like we'll never engage. And I would encourage anyone to really look into that. But we make sure when we're using any apps or partners that we own the data, that's ours. And that if we wanted to move providers, we can move. So like our reviews, if we want to move to a new review platform, we can download all the reviews, get all the information, move them over to a new platform. Same with email. Beyond that, we're not really using that many providers outside of Shopify ecosystem, and we own all the information there too. If I wanted to leave Shopify, I could download all the customer information as well. So that's really important. And then working with agencies, I mean, I've had predatory experiences in agencies too, where if you're going to work with a meta agency, sometimes they'll want to use their own sort of platform, which is not in your ad account. And so they'll own all the campaign structure and all that data that you're getting. And they'll just provide you visibility via dashboard. Don't do that, obviously, because you're not building the data in your ad account and training your pixel and all this stuff. So I've seen all these sorts of things. So I'd say like, yeah, it's a great question. And like, I've gone down that road and be burned, especially on the meta side many, many, many years ago. But I'd say like when we consider any partner, and for anyone out there listening, consider any partner, make sure you own your data and make sure that like they're just providing a service and they're not gatekeeping the core IP that you as a brand want access to. So I've never actually been asked that before, so it's a great question. And
That's
we've
good
been
advice
burned,
too.
and we've learned. Yeah, burn and learn. Yeah.
So, all right, two things I want to know as we end our time together is you've been doing this quite some time, and I think you brought a little bit of an outsider perspective and a unique mindset to this. How has D2C, the ecom landscape, changed over that time? Like, meta's harder, advertising is harder. We hear a lot about customer acquisition costs. What's different? What has changed?
I think what's changed is that you have to run your business like we've always run it. So, what's been interesting for us is that like we didn't feel the change as much because we didn't play the game everyone was playing it. And for better or for worse, I look back and be like, oh, could we have maximized way more opportunity by just like kind of going all in on the, e-commerce model and like, instead of spending so much time on ground in those formative years, building the brand and doing, partnerships and being in real life at events, could we have just been like taking advantage of the Facebook gold mine? So yeah, there's probably a lot of missed opportunity there. However, perhaps it would have been at the expense of longevity. We wouldn't have actually built the brand or the product love that we have. Hard to say and go back. But what's really changed is that there's far less of an arbitrage game. You can't just come in, put up a store and print money with Facebook ads anymore. Like that's the general theme here, is that you actually have to focus on building product that solves a customer need that people love and want to come for. The landscape is just too expensive for you to basically sell let's talk about like where I'm at, sell a product that's not $5,000 or $1,000. Let's sell like a consumer product under $250 or maybe even under $100. It's the market's not there where you can just sell one and never have a repeat customer and just make money. It's just too expensive to acquire. It's too expensive to run. You need that retention engine there. You need people to come back and kind of blend into your metrics so that you're making money over the long tail. So I'd say like, what's really changed is that you have to run a business now, not an arbitrage. You need to do it all. You need to have a great product. You need to build a strong team. You need to build an advertising model that isn't just reliant on one channel and it kind of considers all else, like, in real life events or partnerships or product seeding. You need to run a business. And so I'd say like for just kind of like the drop shipping, drop shipping's got planed out as well. Like there's times where arbitrage happens and people come in and they turn and burn, they just make as much money as they can and go. I think that way of running in e-commerce is just going away. You actually need to build a business, provide value and diversify the business. There's still probably a ton of opportunity to go build little $1 million businesses and like do okay on small products and always find these little arbitrages. But if you're sitting and listening and saying, I want to build a brand that's around for 10 years and do over 10 million in revenue, you're going to need to take a way different approach to that than you did. That's going to require building a real product and a real team. And like I talked about earlier, it's creating a value exchange for the people you're selling to. And where I come from, like that's what I love to do. I'm not here to create just money. I want to create, value in the market. And I want to like have a brand that I look back on and be proud of. That is, I'm getting to have conversations with you about the product, right? That's like what brought us together. And like, that's cool to me. The reviews are cool. Seeing people wear the product is cool. And the other stuff is all secondary to the change that we can do and just provide, such a great product and build a cool brand. Like we have initiatives that we're actively engaged in each year too, with like cancer donation, for example, and other athlete foundations that we get involved with. And we've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years to these different foundations and initiatives. And that's also really cool. So it's like, how can you use your business as a vehicle for good and give back as well? And, that's the ultimate sort of how I think about it and how the market is changing, where the consumer is demanding actual value and they're kind of wising up to the game. And beyond that, there's all the privacy changes and how we can advertise, which is just made it tougher. And ultimately, what all this does is make the cost to do business higher. And so you need to find a way to make more money. And that's generally going to be through your retention in the business. And that means selling a product people want to come back and buy more of.
I love the advice. Build a brand and be in it for the long haul. And these get rich quick schemes that were drop shipping stores, that's going away. That's no longer a viable or attractive model. And frankly, I think it's for the best. My last question to you, I want to know how you define success. How does Rob personally define success? What's it look like for you?
That's evolved over time. I think ultimately what success is and where I've got to today, you'd have to ask me the year how this changes, but is that I'm still inspired to do what I do every day. I still wake up, like what I was searching for when I started the business and what I had when I was in sport was just that insatiable fire in my belly to wake up every day. And I've got this large goal and I want to achieve it. And it's basically a mission of self-improvement, trying to achieve a personal best and just get better. And so success for me looks like not losing that. And so that's not tied to a specific end goal, which I think is really important. It's not like, because I had, if you asked me a little while ago, I was maybe more immature in business, I'd be like, oh, it's to get to 1 million revenue and then 5 million and then 10. And we've hit all these milestones and it changed nothing. And the dopamine hit was like 30 seconds and it was like back to the grind. And so that's a fleeting way to think about success, in my opinion. And maybe that works for some people and that's great. And I'm happy for them. But for me, it's not tied necessarily to some sort of end goal. It's tied to the process of, am I still enjoying this? I think I'm at a period now where, like I get to choose why I do this as well. And I want to do it for a reason to, like I said, have a business that's providing value and to give back and to see people that I hire thrive as well and see them develop and how can that present new opportunities to do other things and meet interesting people? And so I say, like, honestly, man, it's success for me is that I wake up and get to do this every day and work on that big goal and enjoy doing it. That's kind of a life worth living. And that's a huge win in my opinion. Like, if you're excited to do what you do every day, what else can you ask for? That's cool.
Yeah, having a job you love, you're excited to get up and go do. That's really about as good as it gets.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
glad to
Yeah.
hear it.
And yeah, for sure.
So where can we get these fabulous socks?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is, well, there's multiple ways. I'd say, like, Outway, our Shopify store is certainly the best place. It's where we have our most diverse offering and our best deals. So outway.com, outway.com. Like you said, 6-letter domain that costs me 5 figures. Um, but
I think that's a good deal.
I think it's a good deal. Yeah, I was surprised we got it. So yeah, outway.com. I don't know when this is going live, but if it's soon, we got our Black Friday sale in about a week. So that's the perfect time to shop. It's going to be the best deal with the wide selection. If you're a little more risk adverse and just want to try the product, get one pair quickly, Amazon Canada and the US, we're fully stocked there of our best sellers. It's like 1 to 2 day shipping and $22 a pair. You just give it a shot. And if you like them, then come to our D2C store. Or if you're in Canada, we're in multiple stores, including Mountain Equipment Company, and various other run bike shops. But there's multiple ways to buy. Check it out. If you don't like them, let me know, and we'll just replace it or refund you, because they're just that great. I really stand by the product. So yeah, check it out.
Well, I think so.
I read the reviews. I read the reviews.
I'm gonna go do some sock shopping. Rob Fraser, Outway Socks. Thanks, Rob.